A very good afternoon to you all. So I'm here to present on the rural economy and the impacts COVID has had and what we can expect from it. As you all know that the Indian economy was in a tailspin and we must be aware of this and remember that India was slowing down and the numbers when we were discussing in January, February and till about mid-March when we were hit with the lockdowns were talking about a slowdown in the economy. The only aspect that was positive at that time was the government expenditure. And as you can see from the graph on the right, it was growing at 14%, whereas the exports as well as the capital formation were in the negative territory. But then came the COVID shock, which was unprecedented. The passenger vehicle sales, the sales of two-wheelers, the consumption of petroleum products, all dropped dramatically. And consequently, because of the economic activity almost coming to a shutdown, the GST collections and the revenues that the government had to do the spending also contracted. Government of India therefore came across with the Atmanirbhar Bharat scheme, and some of the measures that were announced as part of that scheme, which affect the rural economy, are highlighted on this slide. The 500 rupees that was transferred to the Jan Dhan accounts, the Manrega wage rate increase, the additional allocation to Manrega, the 3 months pension in advance that was given to senior citizens, widows. A large proportion of them stay in rural areas. The 3 trillion collateral-free loans for businesses, including the MSMEs. Now, a part of that will go to rural area because a large number of micro and small enterprises are there in rural areas, which are defined as rural areas. There was also a liquidity facility given for the non-banking financial companies and the microfinance institutions to the tune of 300 billion. And as we all know that will provide the required credit flow in the rural areas. Similarly, a special refinance facility was provided to NABARD. Now, there are some measures that were taken specifically for the agriculture sector, which is the 2 trillion concessional credit to farmers that were given through the Kisan credit cards, the fund for the farm gate infrastructure improvement, that is the Agri Infra Fund. Then there was this 900 billion of financial support from NABARD to the rural regional rural banks and the cooperative banks. This was to meet the crop loan demand. Similarly, support for the animal husbandry, additional money for the Matsya Sampada, which is the fisheries sector, and most importantly, the agricultural marketing reforms that were announced and the bills as we know, got passed yesterday. There were several liquidity and credit creation measures also that were taken, but these actually help the banks and may indirectly flow into the rural economy. Now, given all this, we have seen that there has been some impact in the rural sector. We all have been talking about the tractor sales. We have been talking about the fertilizer sales. Yes, tractor sales have gone up, but we have to be a little careful on that number because it could well be some pent-up demand that may have given the tick in June, as we have seen in July, the numbers coming down. Similarly, fertilizer sales, it has gone up significantly, and of course, it is correlated with the area under sowing for the kharif crops. And if you can look at the graph at the bottom, the area sown under kharif crops till date has tracked continuously higher than previous year, and we actually have recorded the highest area sown under kharif crops in this year. Now, this can lead to a higher fertilizer and food subsidy bills for the government of India. Higher fertilizer bills, of course, is kind of mitigated a bit by the lower petroleum prices because the production cost would be lower. But clearly, the output that we are expecting from the kharif crop would require a large volume of procurement under the MSP, and that will lead to a higher food subsidy bill. Now, of course, we know that the food subsidy bills always do not hit in the current year budgets, and some of it could get deferred into the next year to manage the fiscal situation. The high kharif outputs could also cause the food prices to crash. Now, it has two impacts. One very negative one is that it could lead to farmer distress, and therefore there's an urgent need for agri storage infra to be boosted. Our Prime Minister has stressed upon it, but it takes time. We need to see how much of the agri storage infra can be built in a short span of time. The positive impact is that it is likely to tame the inflation part of it. We know that inflation is outside the RBI's comfort zone. Control or check in food prices or a crashing of food prices would help in bringing it within the comfort zone of RBI. And maybe in the fourth quarter, that may give some headroom for the RBI to consider a rate cut, depending on, of course, other metrics and other data points that come in. In NREGA has been a significant, has had a significant impact in the numbers, as you can see, shows the kind of front loading that has been done on NREGA. The number of household and persons employed under NREGA has increased by 7% and 6% respectively, just in the first 5.5 months, as compared to the annual total of last year. That shows the kind of front loading that has been done. There has been an average wage rate increase, and there is a 71% increase in average monthly income generated in 2021 as compared to the last year. So therefore, this of course has kind of kept rural India ticking, and people who had migrated, the migrant laborers who migrated back to rural areas, they were kept employed. The fluctuating unemployment that we saw is it rose very significantly in the months of April, May, but then it dramatically dropped in July, and there is a slight uptick in August. Now, clearly, the lower rural unemployment came in due to the labor absorption in NREGA as well as the agri sector, because the kharif sowing was going on. And the rise in unemployment that we have seen in August could possibly be due to some transitional impact where the rural labor is coming back to urban areas and they don't immediately get employed, or it is also contributed possibly in rural areas because the sowing season is over. Now, I just want to show this bank credit to the micro and small enterprises, and it's very important for rural areas because there in rural areas, a large number of micro and small enterprises reside. And as we can see, the bank credit to the micro and small enterprises in manufacturing and services, while in services there has been an uptick, but in manufacturing it is still in contraction zone. And majority of the micro and small enterprises in the rural areas are in the manufacturing. Therefore, they are facing stress. Finally, what would I like to conclude by saying is that rural economy should not be equated with agriculture. Rural economy is much larger than agriculture. Just to give some data points, less than a quarter of our rural household income is actually from agriculture. And within that also, there is a significant portion which is for the livestock, from livestock rearing. So on agriculture, the rural household income on directly from agriculture is a very small component. We must also remember that rural is becoming semi-industrialized. 50% of our MSMEs are actually in rural areas, which are defined as rural areas. And we all know that MSMEs have gone through the maximum stress and therefore a lot of job losses. That puts a stress on the income or the disposable incomes that are available in rural households. When we talk about MSP procurement and a larger allocation for MSP procurement, we must all remember that a very small percentage of farmers are covered under MSP procurement because majority of the farmers don't have very significant surplus produce to sell. And the MSP procurement is therefore concentrated in a very few states. For example, a state like UP, about 5 to 6% of the farmers are only covered under the MSP procurement. As a data point, we can understand that when we talk about MSP procurement and large allocation for that, it doesn't impact a very large rural population. Next aspect is the horticulture. Now, horticulture promotion over the years has led to a very large production of the perishable fruits, vegetables, and actually their output has exceeded the output of the grains. Now, this horticulture produce, as we all know, is perishable. And during the lockdown, the maximum impact the rural economy has faced is because of the impact on the horticulture sector. These could not move to the mandis or from the mandis to the markets. Therefore, there has been a significant income loss for those agricultural households that are dependent on horticulture or partly dependent on horticulture. Next is the remittances. Now, remittance is a very important component of the rural economy. The remittances from India to Bharat, as I say, which is essentially from urban to rural areas, has been significantly impacted because the migrant labor didn't have work and many of them returned back. Now, it will take time for them to come back, build the surplus, and then remit again. What I would like to say is that rural economy should not be equated with agriculture. The rural economy is not equal to agriculture. And why do I say that? Is because of these points that you see on this slide. Less than a quarter of the rural household income actually is from agriculture. And within that also, as we know that agriculture includes livestock rearing. So therefore, when we say that agriculture sector is doing very well and the growth is going to be good, the rural household incomes is about 30% of the rural household income, we can say, is getting impacted by that, and 70% is not. The second aspect is that rural is becoming semi-industrialized. 50% of our MSMEs are in rural areas. And we all know that MSMEs have been under the biggest stress, and there have been job losses in the MSME sector. And therefore, there have been job losses in rural sector. People who were employed in those micro and small enterprises have lost jobs, and therefore that has impacted household income in rural areas. The third aspect is that a very small percentage of farmers are covered under the MSP procurement. As we all know that very small proportion of farmers have a surplus and also has the means to take that surplus to the mandis. Therefore, it is concentrated to a very small percentage of farmers getting covered and also in a very few states. To just give a data point, in Uttar Pradesh, only 5 to 6% of the farmers are covered under the MSP procurement. The fourth aspect is the horticulture. Now, the horticulture promotion schemes have led to a significant increase in the production of perishable fruits and vegetables. Actually, their production has overtaken the output of grains. Now, we all know that the farmers who are dependent on horticulture were maximum impacted due to the COVID lockdown because they could not take their produce to the mandis and from the mandis to the markets. And these are perishable, and we don't have adequate storage infra, adequate cold chains. So the loss of income in such households is going to impact the rural demand. The fifth point is remittances. And as I say that the remittances from India to Bharat, or essentially urban to rural, is a very significant component of the rural economy. With the migrant labor going back to the villages, that flow has almost dried up. And that has impacted the disposable income in the rural households. Now, till the time the migrant labor comes back, builds a surplus and remits back again, we will have challenge in as far as the disposable income is concerned that was generated from the remittances. And finally, the state finances. As we all know, the states are the main implementers of all schemes and many economic activities. And state finances are severely stressed owing to the GST issues. And as we all know that there has been a very significant drop in GST collections, and the states are demanding compensation. And there is an ongoing debate between the center and states as to how to fund that gap. Now, clearly, the state finances are going to be constrained, and its ability to undertake more programs, schemes in rural areas will be limited, as it has been diverting resources to fight COVID-related expenses also, while the revenues are not there. Therefore, to conclude, I would say that we need to be very cautiously optimistic about the rural economy as to how the demand will pan out. While the initial indicators are good, we are going to have a good Kharif output. The high frequency indicators are showing good uptake, but we need to watch out how the income and the demand pans out in rural area. Thank you.